Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Confidence Code podcast episode number 5. Very proud, cracking on with the episodes. This is our second episode this year in 2025. And this brings me to introducing today's guest, who is a very special friend of mine. I think I can call him friend, Chris Spinner. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Chris, in a second. And I'm also sharing the topic of today's episode, which is going to be around men's mental health. So very special and super interesting topic, I think, for all of us. Whether our listener is a male or a female, it's equally important, I think, to raise awareness around mental health. Especially in this episode around men's mental health. So I give the word to you, Chris, to introduce yourself, and perhaps you can share the story, how you and I met back in the days. It feels like we know each other for ages. And maybe a short intro about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Mesi. I'm Chris. I'm the founder of a company called Innerfit. So we exist to help people beat burnout and boost performance, which in practice means delivering training and keynote talks across a range of topics. And I believe we first met when you were working at Amex GBT, and I actually facilitated/hosted a session which was designed to help people do that, which is digging into the memory archives. But yeah, in essence, that's what we're all about. And at this point, we've got over 30 speakers and facilitators working across different countries as well. So it's changed a little bit since we first met, but more than happy to dig into that. And obviously the topic of men's mental health, because I'm a man and I do have mental health, as we all do. So happy to try and answer any questions as best I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the intro. And maybe I just add a short note that just around the time when we met, there was a very special period as well for me, because I was working as an in-house, like internal employee at Amex back then, and we were organizing a massive big project, a wellness week for all UK employees, and that's when you and I met. Little did I know back then that we're gonna, stay in touch. And then one day I'm gonna explore like a very similar journey, cracking on, building an empire, hopefully, in a couple of years in the world of wellbeing and mental health. So let's dig deep into today's topic. So our very first question, which I think you kind of like answered as well, like about what you do. Maybe just shortly, I would love to hear your thoughts about why it feels like a passion for you, what you're doing, and I love to ask founders about what drives you, like what's this thing, this inner thing. In you, what you have, which keeps you going every day and keep rocking with your business.
Deep question to start with, but yeah, I'd say it goes through a few levels and phases. So the original reason for starting out Innerfit was right back after I'd concluded a couple of years working at a sports marketing agency, and prior to that in a strategy consulting job in which I worked some really long hours. So 35 hours in a row was the max that I worked. Also worked 35 days.
With no sleep, sorry. With no sleep.
With no sleep, mostly PowerPoint and Excel. No
Impressive.
Sleep. Impressive, and another few adjectives I guess we could use to describe that. But it was tough, so I didn't burn out, but I was definitely stressed, and I think that kind of planted the seed without knowing it for what was to follow. But immediately after that, I moved into the world of sports marketing. So I moved to a agency which was award-winning for its culture, but also a award-winning agency for the work it did. So it was a great place to work, as well as actually being profitable and performing really well. So that was kind of a bit of a light bulb moment for me, that you can have both. You don't have to burn yourself out and push really hard 7 days a week to reach optimal performance, and you don't have to sacrifice your mental health to be the best you can. So I think without realizing it at the time, that was where the passion started, and I ventured out on my own to just explore. I think the driver was A, to help other people, B, to explore myself and step into myself. We could talk about that in a bit more depth if you want to, but basically since then, I think the passion has been reignited through seeing how other people are living with mental ill health, are struggling to perform at their best, and this idea that we're all on the continuum somewhere of survive to thrive, which I know is true for myself. And when you see that for other people in a workshop or a talk and they share very openly about how they're doing, it just kind of keeps you going. So I think that's part of it. But truthfully, the other part is just habit. I think I don't wake up every day and think, right, let's go and help people today, or let's go and fulfill my potential. I generally just wake up and crack on, which I think comes down to habit. So I think, again, we could talk about that in a bit more depth, but I think that's the slightly more boring part of the answer, which perhaps doesn't get as much limelight, because when we think founder and entrepreneur, we always think, wow, exciting vision and fire in the belly every day. But in practice, I think it's more about just getting into a solid habit, good routine, good basics, I'd say, which is easier said than done, but I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you actually mentioned it, because sliding away from the actual mental health topic, just in general about like being a founder, because now I'm living the same or similar like lifestyle, what you just mentioned. And I think we also create this vision for ourselves. Like I had the same in my mind. I had zero clue what I'm stepping into when I started my own business, but like a similar thing, like it feels like shiny, this everybody, I don't know, like, you know, so some people may imagine this in, I don't know, black tie events, and you're a founder and you get all these awards, and it's like how cool, and you're always guests in podcasts and stuff like now. But yeah, as you say, it's like many times it's really just cracking on, like waking up every day and just like doing it. And it was just, I don't know, like uplifting to listen to that. Oh, well, yeah, that's not too shiny and glamorous, you know, all the time. Actually, like most of the time, it's just, you just do the hard work. And then, yeah, it's interesting what keeps people going. But yeah, I guess still the mission behind. So yeah, thank you. Yes, definitely answers the question. Yeah, I think we can just step into to the deeper side of the actual topic today, which is about men's mental health. And I gave a title to this podcast. I was using this phrase, which I think broadly used when it comes to men's mental health, especially. And it's this phrase of men don't cry. And actually some Hungarian, and we also have this saying like directly translated into Hungarian. It sounds exactly the same. So that tells a lot, I think, that it's like regardless of any nationality, you know, it's just the same in the whole world. This differentiation of how, women or men like deal with emotions and like just deal with their own mental health. This stigma that women are more emotional and we have to cope better, and men cannot cope that much, and men don't cry. Like this whole like crazy idea around the whole thing, I totally think is obviously not true, but somehow society created it. So anyway, what's your view on it, and how do you see, I don't know, just maybe in your personal life as well, the topic around it, like how men cope with mental health, just in general. I know it's a very broad question, but maybe you can get examples from your own life. But then I think it could have a second part of the question, which is how you perceive it when it comes to work. Yeah, because I think that there's a layer like in society in general about men's mental health. Yeah, men shouldn't cry, and men should be strong, and men should be this, and men should be that. Like totally bullshit. I think it shouldn't be true, and it doesn't have to be the way. And the other thing is when we get to work, we all bring that mask on, right? Like whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, you wake up, you put the mask on, and you go to your workplace. And somehow, I think at work, we just completely perform like we are on stage, and like people are observing us, and like what you say, how you dressed up, what will he think, what will my boss think, how will they evaluate me, what is my year-end briefing or year-end review result, and we just act and perform. Absolutely not even our real, I don't know, like as we are real humans. So I think when it comes to work, it just comes another layer on the top of this whole thing, which is already like hard. But that's just how I perceive it. So I let you unfold like your general thoughts around it.
I mean, it is a big topic, isn't it? So I guess I'll approach it from the general point of view and then my personal perspective. So generally, I feel like stereotypes usually have some truth in them, like they exist for a reason. So I feel like there is some truth in the idea that men don't cry as much. I don't know if there are any solid stats on that, but there's probably some truth in that. And there's probably some truth in men showing less emotion at work, and perhaps even men feeling less emotion at work. But I feel like if we really dig into that, I guess the idea of emotional literacy feels relevant. And what I mean by that is, rather than saying I'm good, when if you ask me how I'm doing, I'll reply I'm good. You'll reply, oh cool, how are you? I'm good too. Thanks, move on. But actually, if you dig a layer into that, emotional literacy is around perhaps asking the second question and giving a deeper response. So rather than good, I might say curious or exhausted or depleted. And those answers to communicate to you actually require me to be aware of them, which I think links to a kind of wider point, which is that men, stereotypically, including myself sometimes in this, aren't actually aware of what they're feeling necessarily, or come out in other ways, but they don't consciously think, oh, actually, yeah, it's Friday and I have had a big week and I am stressed and my jaw is tight and that's what's going on in my body and in my mind. Rather than, so yeah, does that make sense? I feel like I might have not articulated that particularly well, but the basic idea is, the stereotype is that men are maybe less emotionally aware or intelligent, dare I say, and women are more, and they talk more and they're more expressive and open with their emotions. So I guess regardless of gender, the emotion and the emotional literacy piece I think is important, because when it comes to the idea of not crying, maybe that's to do with it, you know. Maybe crying is just a good thing about expressing emotion, or it's a good way of expressing emotion, and men perhaps don't let that come out, they bottle it up, would be the stereotype, I'd say. So I think in my personal experience, I didn't cry for years. There's been years where I didn't cry, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think prior to starting the business, I probably went 3 years, maybe more, without actually crying. But I was pretty happy and pretty comfortable in my life. I maybe cried with laughter, but I don't remember really crying in any great depth. And that was partly because I was very lucky and fortunate that my life didn't have massive challenges. But then you start a business, perhaps there's an element of stress there. My mental health wasn't always great. And then different challenges are thrown at you by life. You lose people that are close to you. Other things happen. And all of a sudden, I cry loads. So I think getting comfortable with that over time definitely happened. I think when you start a business, you kind of strip away quite a lot as well. Like the idea of caring so much what other people think isn't quite as important. And I've gone on quite a long time there answering your question. So I'll pause and just check in, because there was quite a few bits in there and I wondered if you wanted to bounce off anything or ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, loads. I wanted to ask how you felt when those cries first happened to you, when life were more challenging, or you had to cope with really difficult things in your life. Did you feel like some sort of like self-judgment, or did you feel like, okay, that happened, but it shouldn't happen? And you know, did you realize, or did you notice like these thoughts or maybe, ideas that, okay, that happened, but were you okay with that? Or you were like, oh, I am really struggling and that is not good. Or were you like, it's okay, I allow myself and it's fine? You know what I mean? Like, did you had to cope with this man stereotype that, oh my God, I'm weak now? Or I don't know, like I'm not a guy, but it must be like hard. I don't know, because maybe sometimes you would feel, I need to be like that, or I need to be in a certain way to meet these expectations, which the external world has towards you, which may be not even true. It's just a society created thing. But yeah, you get the question.
Yeah, I think it depends on context. So, and upbringing as well, and nature versus nurture and all that kind of thing, because I grew up just with a mum and a sister, so didn't really have, I don't think, much exposure to like macho, toxic masculinity. Obviously gets thrown around a lot. And if we had more time, I guess we could go deeper into it. But from a personal perspective, I felt relatively comfortable showing emotion in general. So I've not really felt much pressure to hold anything in before, and felt fine when I cried and when I do cry, and don't really think anything of it, to be honest. But that's me, and other people have a different background, have a different upbringing, and work in a different workplace. So if stereotyping again, I've got a friend who was a site manager at a company, worked with primarily men, and it's your classic case of the macho environment and the stereotypes that go with that. And maybe it would get a different reaction in that setting, So I think it really depends on the context and the individual, how people feel in that moment, and if they even get that.
Yeah, agreed. Which brings me to the other side of the other half of the question, which is also a very interesting one. We doesn't have to like go into the actual crying bit. What I wanted to ask more in terms of workplace and of office like environments, like what's your experience there when it comes to like trainings, educational sessions, like also the actual work, what you guys doing, educating the workforce and helping them, in terms of mental health and their performance, and just be more productive at work, opening them up and helping them being their best selves, right? Which obviously comes down to their own mental health. So how is it reflecting at the workplace, and what's your general view on the topic? Like it's hard for me to ask like very specific things in this, because I know it's again a very broad topic, but I really find it like fascinating when it comes to mental health, and you educate people, and it's interesting because it's a work setting. Yeah. So you ask questions, but their boss is there or the hierarchy is there. Like it's very different, obviously, as someone would react when you're having a beer, like out of like the office walls. So like, can they really open up, and do you really feel the impact, like a deeper impact of just maybe educating them and just doing the work we do when we go to corporate offices? I think that's kind of like made up the question itself.
What we see is kind of biased, because the companies that we work with obviously are investing in mental health and performance already. But in my experience, it works well. People do open up and they do want to talk, whether it's in a work context or a personal life context. Ultimately, we're just human, and I completely recognize your point earlier about putting on a bit of a performance or show and being slightly different in the workplace. But I think when you really ask good questions and have the right dynamics at play in a safe space, people are grateful to be asked the question and are very willing and ready to open up. So to give you an example, we've had word clouds before in interactive sessions on Zoom where we've literally asked the question, how are you doing today? And people have openly shared words like rock bottom or suicidal. So
wow, on a call, like on a training you did. Wow.
yeah, and obviously that requires a certain follow-up and signposting, but people are often really in need of being asked proper questions and talking about mental health. And I feel like providing that space is like one of the most powerful things you can do. Secondly, to your point about leadership being in the room, for example, I've also seen it not work. So to give a different example, this was an in-person session where a senior leader was in the room with a management team, and there was a lack of psychological safety in that space. We knew that from the briefings and the conversations that we'd had outside of that, but no one was able to say that in the room in that moment because the leader was present and shut it down without realizing. So I think there's definitely truth in both of those things, but I think when you do it well, a talk to like spark some conversation and help people see things differently can go a really long way, because after that session people might go to the water cooler or the coffee machine and just have a little debrief on, oh yeah, what did you like about that session? I thought it was really interesting when the question about how are we doing came up. I didn't realize that everyone was feeling so exhausted. Or the flip side with training is you're actually giving people skills to navigate a conversation. If someone is showing or exhibiting signs of suicidal behavior, for instance, like, you know how to spot that and you know how to sensitively approach it and safely approach it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, very interesting to listen to, actually. I have a similar experience that it really depends on the, the environment you create. Like if it's a psychological safe space, then people do open up. And just to mention another example from my end. So we do chair massages as well in offices, which you would think it's a complete fun, relaxing activity, which it is. But I heard examples of people breaking down in tears in these massage chairs because they are so stressed. They're mentally all over the place. They just appreciate 15 to 20 minutes of, relaxation time. And that's when they realize, or maybe they don't even realize, they don't think about this. They just go through the experience. They go into this room, meet this therapist who maybe they never met, a complete stranger, in their lives before. And they just share their deepest, issues just in that 15 minutes to a random person, because they're so overwhelmed and they're just constantly on autopilot and on this, high stress level without no thinking about what am I doing, how I'm feeling, what's happening. It's just, I need to cope with things. I need to keep up. I need to perform at work, at home, to my kids, to my boss, it's mental. And then when you actually provide, a space when they can, shut down a little bit, maybe just for a few minutes. And that's when these things happen. So also shows the average, I think, kind of like level of mental health at the workplace. It's a good example for that. But yeah, thanks for sharing, and that's very empowering how you talk about it, and it's really good to hear that you guys are also really good in helping people in opening up and sharing things, what's going on in their lives, and how then their teams or how their family maybe can help them after that. And I think with all these talks and with all these trainings and with the mission we're on, it's really good, because many times we just need to help them to open up, isn't it? And we're just really providing a space and an environment for them to just share what's going on. As you said, many times, maybe it's no one asking them. Maybe I think actually most people don't even allow themselves the time. Yeah. So unless your employer says, hey, Joe at finance or something, now you have 15 minutes allowed to relax and not being constantly on the go. And if that's your only 15 minutes to relax, I don't think that's good. But for some people might be the case. because it's just, busy and it's hard and everything. And also we have the stigma, men don't cry, we need to be hard and we need to be like strong and stuff. So thank you for sharing. And the title of this podcast originally was and is The Confidence Code, because I love this topic, confidence. And as much as I like in women, I think it's an interesting topic to observe and investigate in men. Probably comes down under the same umbrella as mental health. So I always ask my guests about like what's their relationship with confidence and how, just how you perceive, how you experience it, what's your journey with confidence. And of course we can have the men element in it because now you're a guy as well. But yeah, it's just about the topic confidence, and then we can crack on with our last question.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, confidence first. I feel like it's a very personal thing. So like if I'm feeling confident, that means I'm absent of doubt and self-doubt in particular. So for me, confidence is built up through evidence of seeing like you can do a certain thing. I remember watching an interesting podcast. Well, I say watching, I listened to it about 10 times in the pandemic, which was a podcast episode with Johnny Wilkinson on high performance. And in it, he talks about this idea that we always try and convince ourselves like, right, you can do this. Come on, you've got this. But actually, real confidence is knowing that anything could happen. You're not in control of it, but you're going to do the best you can to navigate that situation. And you're free of any worry of trying to control and restrict. And I think that idea is something that I've tried to apply, and I guess to an extent it's worked because I'm able to remember it and think about it immediately when you ask me. So I think confidence is about, to an extent, letting go of self-doubt and the uncontrollables. And if I think then about how that might play out as a guy, perhaps the fact that I'm a guy has led me to think about it this way, and I've dug into the world of sports psychology, for example. So this idea that performance is based on our mindset and our focus, and one of the best things that the author of a book I'm thinking about at the moment, which is a guy called Terry Orlick, it's called Institute of Excellence. He says that one of the two biggest things that high performers do is like avoid distraction, or rather than avoid it, actually manage distraction control. So a lack of confidence, for example, in the form of self-doubt or negative self-talk ahead of a big presentation, for instance, is one of the things that high performers do really, really well. So I think realizing that it's a journey and knowing.
So do you mean like eliminating the distraction?
I mean dealing with it.
That's sometimes hard, because how do I know what's a distraction? You know what I mean? Like how can I prepare myself? But yeah.
Well, in this, good question. So I guess just to link it to the quote question, in this context, I'd say that distraction control is recognizing what a distraction is, something that's prompting a lack of self-confidence, and then dealing with it and parking it and putting it over there and realizing that you're good. And I think it has a little bit to do with neuroplasticity, because if you practice that over time, your brain will just get better and better and better at not having those thoughts in the first place and dealing with it. So I think, to answer your final question, the quote that comes to mind is from a Shaolin Kung Fu master that actually I trained with in China about 8 years ago, not 8 weeks ago. If it was 8 weeks ago, much better.
I was like, you trained? No. Let's stop here. You trained in China. Okay, great.
Yeah, I went to an international.
What did you do there?
Shaolin Kung Fu for 7 weeks with a friend. Just
nice.
It was amazing. It's still one of the best things I've done. But the master there said, persistence is victory. And it's the idea that if you persist, like you'll have hurdles, you'll have challenges come up, you'll get around some of them, you'll go through some of them, you'll be beaten by a few of them perhaps, but if you persist, like that's winning. So I think as long as you're persisting in the right direction and not wedded to something which is actually doing you harm, that's a really helpful definition. I think the caveat is obviously you need the ladder up against the right wall, and there's no point just persisting if it's not the right thing. So there's nuances there, and there's more we could go into, but persistence is victory, Mesi, is the one that comes to mind.
I like that. When you started to say it, I was like, okay, so what's the second half of this wisdom? Like, what else is there? And I was like, when you started to explain, I'm like, no, that's it. Like, that's it. It's no second part. It's no results. It's no like you win if and you won if that. Like, that's it. Like, and I like it. In other words, I think in modern days they say it's not the goal. It's not the end point, but it's the journey. Like it's not the finish line, but it's, the whole journey that you are present, that you are able to live and enjoy the moments and like live every day as like that's your life. That day is just your life, and then not to worry about tomorrow because you are just here and now. I'm just constantly listening to, you may have heard about Eckhart Tolle and the power of now.
I've seen him live, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, look at you. Wow, amazing. Like his audiobook is constantly on. And it's just so much knowledge in there about this, exactly what you said, like being present and living in the moment and not, crying on the past and worrying about the future, which never happened. And we all our worries are actually just a projected future, which is not even existing. So why am I worried and why am I stressed? But yeah, that's also another could be a topic to another podcast. And just to close, a thought to the previous question, which was on confidence. And I loved your answer on that. Very, very nicely summarized. I think, I heard this from Mel Robbins. She's my other ultimate favorite in terms of, like education about like positive thinking and mental health. So she says confidence is simply just the willingness to try. And I love that. It has a very, very similar message to what you said, that it's not about, I must be convinced that I'm going to win and I need to control everything. We don't even know what's going to happen, right? So in that moment, just before, starting that marathon, writing the book, or just stepping on stage or starting your own business, or whatever you wanna, try in life, which is new and you never did and you are very much afraid of it. It's just the willingness to give it a go. And like I never knew what's gonna happen when I started my business. You never know where it leads you. And if you are able to take every day just by the day and do your best, then it's fine. And not judging yourself, at the end of the day, I could have done this, I should have done this. No, if you felt like you were on 20% or 30%, that's okay. You did your best. That's fine. So no harm. Anyway, lots of wisdom in there. And I know we need to be mindful of time. And thank you so much, Chris, for being available today. The actual episode is going to be launched on Mental Health Awareness Week, which is like next week, which sounds funny because when someone listens to it, it will be like the week before, but that's our plan to launch it very soon. So thank you. And I love the quote as well, what you shared at the end. I think that we are going to have you back at another time because I felt like every single answer you gave, there were like 3 other topics as well to explore. So thank you again. And wishing you all the best with Innerfit and for you guys educating people and, putting all the positivity and the good mission and vision out there. Very pleased to have you. And I think our message to all the men out there, please do cry and don't hide any emotions and just try to be yourselves and we make it a world a better place together. So that's my finishing words really. If you wanted to say goodbye or any message, please do so.
All good. Thanks for the conversation. I enjoyed it, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who listened to us today. And thanks, Chris, for taking the time and being here. Wishing you a wonderful day and an amazing mental health awareness week. Thank you so much.